Hey guys, welcome back to the Grind30 Podcast. We're recording it on the laptop. Hopefully we won't have any issues, but we have a few questions today. It's Jared and I, Sean Ryder and Jared Gordon here. So we're going to get right to it. Some of the questions you guys asked on the private page. So question number one, what are the most important things to consider when setting goals related to lifting heavier?
So, I think you have to preface this question with how do your goals relate to what it is you want to do either inside the gym or outside of the gym. Are you looking for like a certain number? You want to squat 200 pounds? Is that kind of a goal you're aiming for? Is it you want to snatch 135 pounds? I think when you set these goals, it's to be realistic with the time you want to put in, the fitness level that you're currently at, and how much it really does matter to you. So, for example, there are 6 ladies going through the conjugate cycle on Tuesday, Friday, and on Fridays that has become our max effort day. Max effort means we're aiming for a heavy 1 rep for that particular movement at that time. So we'll eventually cycle through those in about 3 weeks. And I told them our goal is to PR every single time we try that lift. But a PR doesn't have to be a 20-pound PR. A 5-pound PR is a PR. So that keeps you in the game. You still want to keep coming back. You're still motivated. If you hit a 20-pound PR and next time you try and you don't, it can be a really big mental roadblock that you run through. So I think when you're setting these goals, you're looking for long-term progression. So if a 5-pound PR is what you get, great. If you have more in the tank, that's okay. Save it for another day. Those are the things that keep you lifting heavier, staying motivated, and keeping your goals realistic as you go.
Yeah, I'm going to play off of what Jared was saying. He was talking about being realistic about your strength goals, and I'm going to come at it from the angle that I kind of came out at one of the other questions on podcast number 1 was you have to have a sit-down conversation with yourself on what do you mean by setting strength as a goal or lifting heavier as a goal. If you're just saying that because you're looking around the box and there's a few people that have a little bit more weight on the bar than you, that doesn't really mean that you have to set a goal to lift heavier. If you're just coming to our CrossFit classes and you've been working on your technique and you haven't been here for over a year, believe me, you will get stronger within our CrossFit class programming when you move well and you put in the time. Now, let's say you've been here for a little while, you've moved well, you're seeing some progress, but you do want to maybe lift a little heavier with your weight. So you sit down, you have that talk with yourself. I want to see my squat numbers go up. And the next thing is you have to be aware of what is that going to do for your daily training and what is that going to do for your daily life. Coming in during an open gym and doing a little extra squatting with a program that a coach gives you, that takes another hour and a half away out of your day. If you're there for a full hour, you could get it done quicker, but just using an example during 10 a.m. open gym. When you get on a strength program, you're adding volume to your overall progress through the week. And that's going to make your body feel a little differently than just doing our classes through the week. And for an example, we have a client that's been with us over 3 years, and she's kind of missed her squats that we've been doing in the past. So she came up to me and she said she was going to do some 5x5 squatting during the week during open gym. That was 3 weeks ago. She told me that. She's been doing it. Well, guess what? She came out to me 3 days ago and said that she's done doing it because it wrecked her body. Her body didn't feel good. It was pretty beat up. That's what comes along with some strength programming. Now, she was doing it on her own. If you want to set lifting heavier as a goal, you need to look out for when Jared is running a strength program such as what he's doing right now. We have 5 or 6 ladies in the conjugate cycle, and I think you're only in week 2 or 3 right now, and walking by them last night, I heard one of them say, I already PR'd my lift and we just started this cycle. Right? So get with a coach that has put in the time doing a program or pay for the specialty programs that we have. and just be realistic. Like Jared said, you're not going to get 20-pound PRs every single day that you try it. Getting a 2.5-pound PR, getting a 5-pound PR is pretty darn good when you're setting heavier goals. There's going to be a point in time where you're not going to get those big gains, and you just have to be happy with hitting something that's heavy for the day and getting the stimulus that is desired when you're on a strength program.
Oh wait, I was going to jump in with that. One last thing is, when you're looking at lifting heavier, there are typically only two components you have to look at. Number one, is it a strength deficit or is it a technique deficit? And I'll give you an example, putting myself in that same category. The best I've ever front squatted was 374. The most I've ever cleaned is 305. Typically, if you look at Olympic weightlifting standards, most guys can clean roughly 85 to 90% of their best front squats. So for me, that would be closer to 350. So there's like a 45-pound difference there. Do I need to keep squatting more to lift heavier? No, for me, I have to improve my technique so I can lift heavier. So even if it means, I know it's kind of awkward sometimes, setting your phone down, analyzing your video, or taking a video of yourself, sitting down with the coach and say, hey, what do you see? Sometimes seeing your own movement patterns and breaking them down to a slower version makes things really, really evident. Oh, okay, my chest is rising too fast. My hips are shooting up really fast. So when we're lifting heavier, is it because, or when we're trying to lift heavier, is it because we don't have the strength or we don't have the technique? And I think a lot of us right now is probably if we improve our technique and it starts catching up with our current strength numbers, then that's the time you can start pushing up those squat or deadlift or what have you.
Yeah, good statement. Lifting heavy with bad technique isn't beneficial to your body. All right. Question number 2. What are some of your past injuries and how did you work through them or work out with them? I know we got a few people that probably want that question answered.
Oh, man. Yeah, how much time do we have on this? I've got quite a few. When I moved down to Winchester in 2013, sounds about right, I had already had a wrist injury that I was dealing with, and I thought it was more of a mobility thing. About 5-6 months of training, and I remember dropping a bar on top of my head during a snatch because my wrist gave out. Anyways, had surgery, a torn scapholunate ligament, and I wore a cast on my wrist for 8 weeks, and that was after some pretty intensive surgery where they actually pinned my wrist from moving. So during that time, it was, well, I can't do anything with my left hand. I can't do pull-ups. I can't really do push-ups. It was a lot of squats. And so at that point in time, I worked with what I had. So I went from a 374 back squat to a 435 back squat while I was recovering. Just did all the things that I could. Last year in December, I had shoulder surgery for a partially torn labrum. And during that time, it was right about the open right now in the winter, I would hop on the GHDs and I would do anywhere from 150 to 200 hip extensions, 50 to 150 glute ham raises, anything that I could do that was going to help improve any of my other lifts that weren't shoulder related was just how I got through them. Now, are there going to be times that you get kind of depressed with that? Absolutely. When you're definitely used to working out 4, 5, 6 days a week and you're going through some pretty mundane workouts, yeah, you're going to have to fight through it. But I just kept looking at, if I can't use my shoulder, I'm going to make everything else stronger. That my deadlift's going to be easier, that my posterior chain is going to be bulletproof. I'm never going to hurt my lower back. So it's a matter of just looking at what can I utilize my time to fix any weaknesses that are available. If you do that, it will help get you through a lot of those things and hopefully make the time a little bit more worthwhile while you're trying to recover.
Yeah, this is a question that I could go on for days about, but as a kid, I never really broke anything, never really got hurt, had to go to the hospital or anything like that. So starting my junior year of high school, I'm just going to go real quick through this timeline. Broke my collarbone in the summer at a football camp. Opening kickoff to the first football game, sprained my MCL. 3 weeks later, in a football game, re-broke my collarbone, out for the season. The first scrimmage of my senior year, I tore all the ligaments in my ankle and got a screw put in, had surgery. My second year at Appalachian State in football camp, I dislocated my kneecap. And then after college, when I first started training CrossFit about 4 years ago, I lifted something that was way too heavy that my body wasn't ready for, and I folded under a 310-pound squat clean. If you want to take a look at that, just Google clean jerk broken fibula. I have a plate and 6 screws in my ankle because of it. And to answer the question, how do you work through it? I was a little silly when I had my 6 small screws and a plate. I also had 2 long screws that went across and connected my tib fib together while my ligaments healed. I still tried to do my CrossFit workouts. I mean, I wasn't lifting heavy or squatting on that foot, but I would place that foot down, and I ended up breaking the 2 long screws. Luckily, the ligaments were healed enough to where it didn't mess anything up, but I was silly, so my suggestion is to please be patient. After that long list of injuries that I just gave to you guys, I'm sitting here today at 28 years old, and I am more fit now at 28 after all of those injuries than I was when I was 22. All right, so listen, you will be back at some point doing your CrossFit workouts. Please be patient. Listen to the doctors, listen to the physical therapists, okay? Listen to Dr. Depper, listen to Garrett, listen to us, the coaches. Okay, don't just say, well, I feel good today, I'm going to jump in and do something. I know doing some of those things that Jared listed, the hip extensions and, glute ham raises or crossover symmetry and all that, it's not sexy, it's not pretty, it's not a CrossFit workout, but it's what you need. The positive thing about an injury is you now have time to reset your movement patterns. You now have time to work on the weaknesses that you had before and still have before that injury, right? If you hurt your knee and we've told you that you have pressing issues or shoulder mobility issues, now it's time to do those things. It's time to work on that shoulder mobility. It's time to do a lot of push-ups as long as you're not putting pressure on that leg. Ring stability work. I know someone asked a question about how do we get better with ring movements. Just hang out on them. Extend your elbows, extend your arms, and just stand there with it. Do some strict work, do some bench press, whatever it may be. There's plenty of other options for you that you can do while you're coming back from an injury. We have ski ergs and things that we can work on if you're in a cast that you're not going to be putting pressure down your foot with. But talk to those around you. Be patient. That is the big thing. Don't come back too early. Don't lift too heavy too early. You will get back to where you were, and believe me, you will get past where you were. The injury in the long run is probably a good thing. All right? Unless it's a freak accident like me, there's a reason why you got hurt. You had an imbalance and you kept pushing through it until it required surgery. All right? Be smart. Question number 3. What mental strongholds have you faced in your own progression, and how did you conquer them?
Mental strongholds. I had to think about this, and I think the way the question is being asked is when you hit a mental barrier, what is it that you tricked yourself into doing, or how did you work yourself through those things? And sometimes those mental barriers come at different points. And so I'm going to go back quite a bit here. I can remember I was 5 years old playing soccer, and I'm on the soccer field, and of course, the whole field's grass, and I find the only rock on the soccer field. Trip, fall, cut my knee open. 5 years old, you start crying. Instinct. My dad was the coach, so I'm over him, and I'm crying. There's blood running down my knee, and takes out his handkerchief, ties it around my knee, and he yelled at me. He goes, "Quit crying, your mother's watching. If she sees you hurt, she's going to get upset, so suck it up." And I paused and kind of taken back that my dad didn't try to console me. He just told me to suck it up. And from that point in time, I know it seems trivial, but that always stuck with me. Middle school, I remember scoring a touchdown in football, and I got cheap shotted into the goalpost. And I literally couldn't feel like half my body and kind of staggered off the field because I'm still playing back the whole idea in my mind that Dad said, "Don't let your mom see you injured or hurt." So those are some things that stuck with me. But for me, it was something simple recently that stuck. out of a book I read. I think it was A Fighter's Mind, and the words were simple. It said, "This too shall pass." So you're in discomfort right now. 5 minutes later, you're going to be fine. Maybe 10 seconds later, you're going to be fine, especially on the assault bike. 20 seconds can seem like an eternity. Get through 20 seconds, and you're going to recover. You're going to be okay. So I look at each of these strongholds or barriers as a challenge. I refuse to let a 115-pound barbell beat me. I refuse to let the assault bike beat me. As long as I can keep persevering for the next 5 seconds, for the next 10 seconds, then eventually I'm going to win. So it might be helpful to start looking at smaller goals along the way. Instead of looking at a 15-minute AMRAP as, oh my God, I have to do 15 minutes of work, I'm going to do all my deadlifts maybe unbroken, or I'm going to do 3 sets of 5 for my 15 deadlifts and move on. And then I'm going to focus on just the next move. Maybe it's wall balls. I'm going to get through those. I'm not looking for the next 15 minutes. I'm looking at one individual thing. Don't look at the clock. Don't worry about that. Focus solely on one thing. And if you keep doing that repeatedly, it starts getting easier and easier. And pretty soon, these little mental barriers are just kind of a little bump in the road. They don't become big things. So that's kind of my take on the whole thing.
That's good. I'm going to go right into the example he used at the end. The other day we had Matson, the workout, or Marston. What's it? Single heavy deadlift, 10 toes bar, and 15 burpees. We did that a couple months back, and I knew how much it was going to hurt. And I knew, whereas the first time I did the 405 deadlift in the afternoon, it was going to feel a lot heavier at 5 a.m. class. So I decided to take that workout and focus on doing my toes to bar unbroken. Guess what? I did them unbroken, but guess what? It slowed me down a little bit once I got through the burpees. I had to take about 20 to 30 seconds before I could pick up that bar, whereas in the summer I got right to it, but I may have broken up the toes bar. So for that workout, I played the game that I was just going to use it as a skill session to do my toes to bar unbroken in a 20-minute AMRAP. So, I mean, just using Jared's example in something personal that happened the other day with me, but what mental strongholds have I faced in my own progression is, the injury was a big one. Watching other people work out and taking my time and coming back from that. But other than that, I worked out for 2 years pretty hard after that injury. And I guess a mental stronghold or a barrier, something that I faced that I had to work through, was the decision to cut back on my training and focus on my business. And the mental side of that was that I may lose some of my fitness. I am 6 to 7 months into this type of training, and I really haven't lost anything. Like I said, I'm probably more fit now than I was then. I feel better, but it was, using Trace as an example, like Trace can beat me on workouts now. Having someone at the gym that can beat me was a really big mental barrier to me in cutting back on my training. But again, how to talk with myself, what's more important to me, the business or my training, and the business is more important. So just being able to make the decision on what type of training is going to help me reach my goals. When I come up to a part of a workout that I might have to fight through, again, it's part of why I take Jared's class and I hear him tell me to get back on the bar. And also knowing some days that I can tell him that I don't feel it. Like, hey, dude, I'm just gonna take this workout a little lighter and take this part a little easier. So, mental strongholds, I think they can be defined quite a few different ways. So hopefully that kind of answers your question. But knowing that you have all the time in the world to keep training in our facility, and that you don't have to kill the workout today. If you don't feel up to it, you either make a decision to work out hard or fight to live another day and fight to train another day. If you're talking about something outside of life, Jared's hit the nail on the head. It will pass. It doesn't always get worse is something else that we read in the Fighter's Mind book. It doesn't always get worse. They were referring to a distance runner. It might suck the first 12 minutes, but guess what? You're going to get to a point, maybe 20 minutes into a long run, where you're just going to find your groove and you're going to keep going. So I know there's some clients that are going through some tough times in their life, whether it's a divorce or a split or whatever. And you know what? I haven't gone through those things, but I've gone through things in my life where I thought it was the end of the world. And guess what? Here I am today, 28. I'm learning more about myself. I'm learning more about the people that I'm close with. I'm learning how I need to react to certain people. I think my training and being around people at the box play into my mood and the positivity in my mood every single day. So just know that at our box, you're doing something to benefit yourself. And I think it will make your mood a lot better when it comes to any mental barrier or stronghold that you need to work through or conquer in your life. And just know that you're not the only one out there going through things. And I think the more that you get around our people and ask our coaches these questions, the more we can hopefully shine some light on how to work through those things.
The other thing I would add to that is they talk about, and I'm definitely someone who takes ideas from other people. So this isn't my idea. I think this came from Brute Strength, but it said you're the culmination of the 5 people you hang around with most. And so if there are people at work that are negative and things like that, and they tend to cast things in a poor light, that makes a difference. But I really feel like the people at the gym, at the box, are so positive and encouraging that on days when you feel tired and you don't necessarily have that mental strength, all you got to do is take a look around. Somebody's going to give you like a little wink or a little head nod or give you a high five, and that's how you channel those things and you conquer the obstacles on days when you're just not quite feeling it, like Sean was talking about. So use everybody else's energy. That's a great way to get through those barriers when you're kind of stuck.
Perfect. And to play off that, we're going to wrap up with the last 2 parts is I'm going to read something from the Daily Stoic that might kind of play into that as well. And then we'll tell you guys what podcasts we're currently listening to. So on January 21st, the Daily Stoic talks about a morning ritual. It says, ask yourself the following first thing in the morning. What am I lacking in attaining freedom from passion? What for tranquility? What am I? A mere body, a stateholder, or reputation? None of these things. What then? A rational being? What then is demanded of me? Meditate on your actions. How did I steer away from serenity? What did I do that was unfriendly, unsocial, or uncaring? What did I fail to do in all these things? That was Epictetus, and the description that the author Ryan Holiday says after that says, many successful people have a morning ritual. For some, it's meditation. For others, it's exercise. For many, it's journaling, just a few pages where they write down their thoughts, fears, hopes. In these cases, the point is not so much the activity itself as it is the ritualized reflection. The idea is to take some time to look inward and examine. Taking that time is what Stoics advocated more than almost anything else. We don't know whether Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations in the morning or at night, but we know he carved out moments of quiet alone time and that he wrote for himself, not for anyone else. If you're looking for a place to start your own ritual, you could do worse than Marcus's example and Epictetus's checklist. Every day, starting today, ask yourself these same questions. Let philosophy and hard work guide you to better answers, one morning at a time, over the course of a life. So going back to the strongholds thing, patience, look at one thing at a time, know whether it's something that you can change internal and make internal choices and changes, or is it something outside of your control? Okay. Other than that, what podcasts are you listening to, Jared?
Right now, I listen to Jocko Podcast. Love it. Listen to it all the time. I listen from start to end. I do listen to some of Tim Ferriss's stuff. I listen to the Brute Strength Podcast. They're not terribly exciting unless you kind of geek out on all of the mental training, the nutrition, the strength training stuff. Listen to Ben Bergeron's new podcast, Chasing Excellence. And I don't necessarily have any other particular names for podcasts, but I listen to podcasts that specialize with certain people, such as I've been really digging a guy named Wim Hof. They call him the Iceman, and I won't expound upon that anymore. I'll let you guys look it up on your own, but some really interesting stuff with him.
All right. The main podcast is Jocko Podcast. I appreciate Jared turning me on to Jocko about 6 months ago. I bought and read his book, Extreme Ownership, that Jared recommended, and I just got done reading it for a second time now, and I probably got a lot more out of it this second time around than I did the first time around. So definitely another good book that you can read. I also listened to a few Tim Ferriss show podcasts. I think a really good one is with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he actually just had a second interview with Arnold Schwarzenegger this week. So that is the next podcast that I have pulled up on my phone. I think Arnold is one of the most transparent people when it comes to people interviewing him and him giving them straight shot answers. I've listened to one Joe Rogan Experiment podcast in the past 14 days. I listened to Ben Bergeron's Chasing Excellence. I think he posts out once a week. And I also have another one on my phone called Entre Leadership. I haven't listened to too many of those, but I have it there. If I need some thoughts on marketing or some ideas, I'll pull up one of those. Pretty good, straightforward. But one thing that I found out the past 2 weeks is there's a little button on my podcast thing that allows them to speed up their speech 1.5 times. And so it's really helped with me getting through podcasts a lot faster. So you can still understand what they're saying when they're talking pretty quick. So I suggest that you guys do that if you feel podcasts are a little too long. But I definitely listen to it while I'm driving now instead of listening to the radio or sitting in silence. So if you guys drive a lot, pull up the podcast. All right. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. We went about 27 minutes, and I appreciate your guys' questions. Be on the lookout for our next one in a few weeks. All right. At any point, if you have a question, just shoot Jared or I a message or a comment somewhere, and we'll put it on our file and hopefully answer it in the future. See you guys.